doesn't affect you. As long as you're a responsible parent, they don't like deadbeats and shit like that. Like when Drake, when they said he was a dead, when Pusha T said that shit.
But we didn't know the full story.
I think first it depends on the girl one.
Yeah.
I think it's a more maturity thing too. But I think it's more of a they think it's cute, but they wouldn't like.
They wouldn't want it seriously. But I still think the way you present yourself, they can tell it's something like you present yourself in a way which is genuine. You're an intellectual person, and not only that is.
That turns girls off.
Yeah, no, I'm saying it would work in his favor.
He's smart.
It ain't like he just like a nigga. It's not like
this motherfucker was talking to me about politics.
Yeah, it's not like he just like got that he's just a regular nigga that just got somebody pregnant and that was the consequence of it. But it's like you have goals and like things you're doing to support your son and you're taking responsibility.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right.
Different kinds of fathers, dads and fathers. Sperm donors, third category.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Infusion Breakdown Show. It's your boy Joshua Freeman. To my left, I got Mr. Bryan Carey. To my right, I got Mr. Desmond Tillman. How you guys doing?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
Why do you always gotta say that? So
shit
formal,
breezy, bro.
But you said breezy?
Shit breezy. Had some good food today. Have you ever been to Yard House?
Yeah.
Where's that at?
Town Center.
So I was just out there.
What's that? Is it the Westin?
Huh?
The Westin?
Yeah.
It's at the base of the Westin. It's not like in the Westin, but it's like at the base of it.
Yeah, I've been there.
Last night we went to Gordon Biersch for my homeboy's graduation dinner.
Where's it at?
Town Center.
Well, I know I'm like picturing Town Center in my head.
It's near the Green Garage, I think.
I don't
Do you know
know.
Do you know where Cheesecake Factory is?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It's near there. Yeah.
It's on the street, so it's like actually on the boulevard.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's some good food, but it's just like the portions were so small. Like I paid $12, $13, and I got four. I thought it was like 4 nice size shrimp tacos. Well, I just thought it was shrimp tacos. They didn't say how many, but they bought it out, and it was like they were like this size, 4 of them, and I was pretty pissed. And then I got a slider.
But you just paid $13.
Huh? Yeah.
It's Gordon Biersch. I ain't never been there before.
I mean, but I saw other people's food. Like the guy sitting on the other table, like the other side of the table, he had these big ass tacos. Like,
bro, you should have sent them back then. Excuse me.
Yeah, I don't know. I ate them. It was good, but it's just the portion is too small, in my opinion.
Just too small for you, but not for the white guy across the.
The what?
You said it was the portion. I said the portion was just too small for you, not the other guy that got the bigger tacos.
Yeah. So
maybe you got the small.
No, I got a different item on the menu.
Oh.
But he got tacos. I assume my tacos gonna look like those kind of tacos.
Nah.
He probably had the fish tacos and he had the shrimp tacos.
He had shrimp and lobster. I just had shrimp.
But the topic for today is going to be, we have 2 topics. The first topic is going to be, what is failure? The inability to perform a task or not attempting in the first place? So, you ready? I think I'm going to go first on this one. But yeah, as far as failure, I'll say not attempting in the first place, basically. When it comes to like the inability to perform it, basically, I do count that as failure, but I feel not attempting in the first place is more of a failure because no matter what you do, attempting in the first place is courage in itself. And I feel not even trying to attempt it it's not courage at all. So you know what I'm talking about? As far as even something simple as far as like crossing a bridge, people have phobias crossing the bridge. So even with you crossing the bridge, that's
Hi, Mom.
She's
scared to drive to the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel.
Oh, I guess that's the same thing. But yeah, something like that too. Yeah, I was talking about actually walking, but yeah, something like that too. People are definitely scared to drive through the tunnel. I was thinking like drive over a bridge.
Okay.
But yeah, that too. People were scared to drive in the tunnel and they like avoid it. But something simple as that, like just doing something like that, it's a little thing. And I feel people don't focus more on need to focus more on the little things in life, basically. So
those small victories, because they compound and give you more and more confidence, like you said, because you need that courage.
Yeah.
So I know I said that I disagree with you just because for the sake of disagreeing, but I actually agree with you. I say that failure, it's only failure when you're abdicating your responsibility to your personal obligations, or is it something your heart truly desires? So if it's like if you really want this big 3-story house or something like that, and then you're not taking the steps to pursue that, but your heart's really set on it, then that's a failure. You fail to procure the steps for it. Procure might not be the word for it, but you fail to take the proper steps to achieve that. So that's a failure. But you have to have those goals in place. So it has to be something that you care about or you're obligated to do. Otherwise, you could fail to, if it's not confined by that, you could fail to do a lot of things. Like you could fail to go deep sea scuba diving, but you might not want to. So it's more so subjective. But failure is, I agree with you, the lack of trying when there's obligation or a desire.
I'm not gonna. I think I'll be the
antithesis.
You said say it again.
Antithesis.
Yeah. You say I say antithesis. How do you say it?
Antithesis.
No, sir.
No.
I say antithesis.
Josh, what is it? What is it?
It probably is what you're saying it, but I've always read it as antithesis.
It makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm going to completely eliminate not attempting it at all, because there might not be a benefit for somebody to attempt it at all. Like you said not attempting deep sea scuba diving could be failure, but if they're not attempting at all, is it really failure? I think failure in itself is first attempting to do something, and obviously you're unsuccessful. And I think failure is when you take defeat and you accept it as defeat instead of trying to I guess create a successful event after something was unsuccessful on the first go. So I don't think failure is not attempting at all. I think that's kind of like borderline anxiety. So something is deterring you from doing it. I don't think you should be branded a failure because something emotionally or something mentally prompted you not to do something. I think failure is when you attempt to do something and you accept the result of defeat for itself instead of trying again to make something out of nothing, because there's a lot of people who go into something and have no idea what they're doing, and they would be accepting defeat, making them a failure if they accept defeat as the first result and not trying again. I think if you try again and you keep trying, and even if you are unsuccessful, that doesn't make you a failure.
Right.
Because you're trying. I think trying one time and just accepting defeat is what ultimately makes you a failure. I don't think that you should be branded as something, as brash as a failure for not trying something at all. I don't want to make it like difficult, because I really do resonate with what you guys say, but my only difference is that I'm not going to, brand somebody a failure for not trying something at all, because it's kind of like, if there's no drive or no meaning for them to do it, then why do it in the first place? Like, I would probably never go scuba diving because it's not something I want to do. That shouldn't make me a failure.
Right. It doesn't. So, but I think the approach you're taking the act of, because the question is, I interpret it as more of the act of failure. Yeah. So is something a failure? And you're taking that and ascribing the action of, failing to do something as a personal characteristic. So if you fail to, like you said, just say scuba diving, then automatically you're a failure, which that's not the case. I totally agree with you with that. But just because
well, can you separate the two?
Can you separate the two?
Yeah.
Our actions, I was going to say our actions don't define us, but I disagree with that statement. They define us to a certain degree.
Well, how the question is what is failure? The inability to perform a task or not attempting at all. I can identify failure as the inability to perform a task, but the not attempting at all is where the disconnect is, because there's a lot of people who want to do things and pursue a different route. Like, there's a lot of people who have these goals and these ideas of what they want to be, and it doesn't pan out that way.
But
and they end up having they might have failed themselves, but they have more success doing something that they would have never thought they were doing. Just because something in your mind is, you have this obsession with doing something you think you want to do, and what you think you want to do might not be what you're actually meant to do, if that makes sense. Like, in your mind, you're committing to the idea of something you have no knowledge about, only what you've seen secondhand. So maybe you doing something firsthand allows you to develop that love for something you never thought you would be doing.
People change majors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would be lying to you if I said that political science was something I wanted to do all 4 years. I started off as a business management major with a minor in Spanish. I went a completely different route. Did I fail as a business management major? No, because I completed everything I had to, but it's just something I didn't want to do. Did I stray away from business management? No, because I went on and I became a manager, and I immersed myself in what I would have been.
But you attempted in the first place, though.
I attempted it, and I did it successfully.
But no, just because you didn't finish though, I feel like you're mixing it up because you're saying but you attempted in the first place. So what was your first majors?
Business management,
and you changed
Spanish minor.
You said business and then Spanish minor as your minor.
Yeah, because I had completed everything that I needed to my first year, and then the second year was stuff that I didn't want to do. So I eventually fell out of love with the idea of having a business management, Spanish minor, and I attempted to do something new. But it wasn't like me.
But I wouldn't count you as a failure just because you switched, though. I'm not even counting you. I'm talking about as far as because I feel like you feeling like, oh, just because I switch, I feel that will be something because I feel you're taking it as a failure. But I feel like
no. There's a disconnect because I'm defending his statement of you failing yourself, and I said no, you're not failing yourself.
Okay.
That I'm defending my premise of why I believe you're not failing yourself.
Okay, I thought you were saying.
No. I'm not taking it that way because I completed everything I needed to have a business management degree, but I wanted political science. I did everything I needed to, so technically I could have been a double major, but instead I went political science way. Is it something I regret? No, but nevertheless, it was it was a new challenge. Okay. And I said, my idea of failure is accepting defeat as the result.
Yeah, that makes sense. Keep on.
Yeah, so that's all it is. My cutoff is just the inability to perform a task because you are performing that task, however you're performing it unsuccessfully. You're not attempting at all. It's just there's underlying reasons of why you didn't perform it.
Got you. I agree with that. As far as go back to the scuba diving thing, okay, you not attempting at all. We wouldn't consider you a failure in that respect because you're not interested in it. I feel there's only things you're interested in, and then you try it, and you don't attempt it. That's what I'm referring to.
I define failure as failing to reach a goal that you set or that is imposed on you.
I feel like it's anything with you.
Well, if that's how if you're looking at it as a goal, then yeah, I could agree with that. But I thought you were looking at it like just the ordinary citizen, because you didn't do.
Not just anything. Not just anything.
Labeling people you're a failure. You do it. That's on their forehead and stuff.
But isn't that the same thing that I just said though? There's things that you think you can do in your mind, and then really it's just something that you it wasn't for you. Does that make you a failure?
No.
Because what happens if you attempt it? Yeah. If you attempt it first?
No, or what if you are going out to sea, you realize that you aren't calm body, you aren't able to do the task at hand, and you pull out of it. Does that make you a failure?
You fail at doing it, but you're not a failure.
Okay.
I feel that if you went out to sea and then if you're out to sea and you're like, oh, this is not for me, and then you leave, you're not a failure. But if you don't do it in the first place, you don't understand what I mean?
I understand what you mean, but then we need to bring in life in itself. There's a lot of people that want to do a lot of shit, but life gets in the way.
Life gets in the way as far as responsibilities?
Yes. Everyone has responsibilities though. And I think,
but a lot of people better manage their responsibilities to have more free time.
Right.
So does that make them a failure because they don't better manage their responsibilities?
They fail to manage the responsibilities.
No.
It does not make them a failure because look, there are multiple dimensions in our lives. You have a social life, your intimate life, your relationships. You have your work life, your personal relationship with yourself. Some people you have your spiritual. You have all that. There's multiple goals across all those dimensions, right?
Yeah.
So you can fail and succeed in different things, and you can fail at passing your driver's license test the first time, but you could also win the state championship in football or something like that. So I think just to take one of our failures of doing something and label yourself a failure, I think that's really dangerous, and it's detrimental to your self-esteem.
So there's degrees of failure.
Yeah, no one is a complete failure because even the worst person does one thing right, at least one thing right. I challenge you to find somebody who hasn't done a single thing right in their life and failed at everything. You'd be hard pressed.
How I've always looked at failure was not living up to your full potential.
That's a goal for you, though.
Yeah.
Your goal is to live up to your full potential, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But I think that should be everybody's
I feel like it should
failure,
too.
not living up to your full potential, because a lot of people get sidetracked with, extracurriculars to where it deters them from it. And either unintentionally or intentionally.
Who defines that full potential though? Themselves?
Yeah.
What if that full potential is really low? What if they set a low bar?
No one ever sets a low. Well, I won't say that, because there are a lot of people that feel like it's their destiny to become car mechanics and do this, that, and the third, and they're not failures because of that. No. So you're right.
What if people who just take because people as humans, we're gonna take the easiest way out. So are we?
We just talked about David.
Well, we're not gonna say the easiest way out, but they're gonna take the path of least resistance.
Yeah,
most times.
Yeah, so does that make them a failure if they do that and don't achieve, not really achieve, but if they lower their expectations?
No. It doesn't make them a failure, but they're not going to gain the maximum amount of good out of doing it. Sometimes it takes you going through the hard shit and the tough times to get that maximum amount of pleasure and good out of life, because you're having to undo. Obviously, if you're having to go through a lot of tough times, this doesn't necessarily mean that you're undoing or correcting a lot of wrong you did at an earlier stage in your life, but you don't always hit tough times for no reason. There was something you did at some point in your life that has now caused you to have tough times. Yeah. So that's how I look at it. Like, some people can take the path of least resistance because that's what they afforded themselves. They were on top of their shit from day one when they were given their freedom. And by freedom, I mean when their parents cut them loose. They didn't run wild with their freedom. They didn't, rack up a whole bunch of credit card debt. They didn't BS through college. Like, they made the most out of the opportunities they were afforded. So they're not paying for, ridiculous things they did at 21 through 23 when they're 28. They're able to actually do what they want to do with their life at 28 per se. And then moving forward, you're already on the path you're supposed to get. It's only going to equate to better things in life. Now, not to just say that, okay, after 28, if you're not where you need to be, shit, abort the mission. But you're going to have a much tougher path to get to where somebody was at 28 if you're overcorrecting a lot of stuff that you did wrong, from the get-go.
I think I look at failure. The concept of failure is, labeling someone as a failure as a whole. I look at it as like a report card. That really put in perspective. So you have, like, let's say 7 classes back in high school, right? You can fail a class, but it doesn't make you fail like a failure as a whole. Like, that's one component that you did not complete. So of course you have to retake the class. But did you fail? Just because you failed biology doesn't mean you failed your chemistry class or your English or anything else.
I think what he was saying basically, like, say for instance you fail at biology, whatever, and you never take it again, then I feel
that's the definition of failure.
Okay, I want to say, are you failure then?
Yeah,
but you saying
you failed biology, but you're not.
No, you're not a failure as a whole. Yeah, I'm talking about for biology.
Yeah.
I understand.
I think it's really dangerous for us just to label ourselves. Well, most importantly ourselves. Like, other people, okay, that's bad enough, but to label ourselves a failure because we, don't meet the mark in one dimension of our lives.
Yeah, and then I think at the same time, like, to, I guess, like, counteract my statement, there are a lot of people who don't live up to their full potential, but they still make the most out of what they have. That doesn't make them a failure, because they made the adjustments they needed to make to where they pursued, whatever career path they had at hand, so they could get the maximum amount of good out of whatever they were doing. That doesn't make them a failure because their dream goal was to be a Fortune 500 CEO or manage and run their own business, and instead they had to settle for something else. But settling for something else still gives them the stability they need to have a fruitful life.
What if it's a guy that could be a doctor? He attempted to be a doctor like that, and but he settled for being, let's say, I don't want to say a janitor, but
pharmacist.
Something. Not really.
So he wanted to be a doctor, but he settled to be a nurse. Because you have to do more schooling. It's not saying like degrading nurses whatsoever. Like, phenomenal job. Like, we need nurses, but like I believe doctors have to be in school longer than nurses.
No, I was talking about as far as the work thing.
Society
becoming a nurse still takes a lot of work.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was talking about cutting the whole work thing out.
He might not brand himself as a failure, but there's always going to be in the back of his mind of what could have been.
Right.
I don't think that would necessarily make you a failure because you're still enjoying life in itself, but there's always going to be that what could have been.
You didn't meet your potential.
Yeah.
But you can still succeed at what you're doing currently.
Yeah.
So he didn't meet his potential, but he's not a failure.
Ideally, that's why I said I was going to counteract my argument, because there are people who don't meet their full potential but still are able to, maximize the good out of what they do, or maximize their goods based off of what they do.
Life is like a series of games. Like if you're not good at one, you can always find another one to play. Like you might not be the best violinist, but hell, you might be able to play the drums phenomenal. So it doesn't mean that you're a failure. It just means that maybe you weren't the best for that. You might have failed at that particular thing, but there's something better suited for you. Okay. You find your purpose and find your meaning within doing that and pursuing that.
Okay, so what if, am I considered a failure if I play Nimble Nimbus and I lose the first round and I was like, fuck this game, then I delete it?
No, because it's something as simple as Nimble Nimbus.
I mean,
it's no disrespect to the game, but it's just a game. Like, it doesn't add any more value to your life, and it doesn't detract anything.
So it has to add some type of value. What if that
consequential?
What if that fun that I get from games?
Then that's just your loss.
That's just
I think you need to reevaluate your priorities.
Exactly.
If you think
I ain't even gonna let you finish the statement.
I understand.
People are in gaming and feel just playing a game gets them off, basically.
And it's ridiculous.
I ain't even gonna lie, that used to be me. I would play FIFA, and anytime some BS happened, the controller was going across the room. I remember, so I got an iPod Touch for Christmas, 2000, either 10 or 11. December 26th, I was playing 2K. Some BS happened, and I had the iPod in between my feet, and I threw the controller down, and it hit the iPod, and it cracked the screen. Second day having it.
You feel like an idiot, didn't you?
I did.
You failed at taking care of the iPod.
So you was twice as mad. And then it fucked up. Like,
and the thing was, I lost 3 times because I lost the game.
And you upset and frustrated.
Well, no. I lost the game. iPod messed up, and then I messed up the vibration thing on the controller. Mm-hmm. So the controller no longer vibrated. And I had got that controller.
You got all that for Christmas.
Wow. I thought you was frustrated because you was like, oh, you broke it. Then you frustrated playing the game. You can't win because you can't not focus because you're thinking about the iPod.
Hey, mom, you got the receipts? You got the receipts?
That's crazy. But yeah, anything else you guys want to add as far as?
No, on this particular topic, I think we explored it as thoroughly as we can at this moment.
Yeah, we had a decent talk about it.
Yeah. So what do you guys think, though? What is failure to you guys? Is it the inability to perform a task or not attempting in the first place?
Or is it neither?
Yeah.
Do you have your own definition?
It could be neither.
Failure.
Who knows, right? I did ask this question on Instagram. A lot of people said not, but we said not attempting in the first place.
Yeah, I think I actually answered that.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. You always answer my questions. So.
Man, those questions are just...
But yeah, and nothing's funnier than the ones where he's staring at the.
Oh yeah,
just staring at the screen.
He's like, "Yo, check this out." You know when John's about to ask a question.
Yo, check this out.
So check this out.
But yeah, the next question.
Sound like a librarian.
Looking at you like, "Are you fucking stupid?" I'm like, "Yo, can you chill on me, please?"
Oh my god. But yeah, the next topic is going to be the top problems facing society. Yeah, I know Desmond came with a list. He only got 7 though, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a list from like an actual article. It's top problems facing society according to millennials too. So it's not every generation anything like that. It's according to actual millennials. I kind of picked this one because millennials are kind of the future, and
there is no kind of.
There's
no kind of.
True. And we are responsible for the next generation. I think they're called Generation X. So yeah, we're responsible for them and making sure they prosper. So
what about self-responsibility?
As far as,
come on, we know that's there.
That's like, okay, so self-responsibility. Okay, we can make the earth better, but there's still older generation.
I know. I was being facetious.
Okay, let's make sure.
He was pulling to you on you.
But
you didn't like it, did you?
Fuck you.
By the way, we'll be posting a link to the actual article. You can check it out down here in the description. It's a wonderful article about Business Insider. Give us some feedback. Let us know what you think about their list after we get into it.
Always want to know what you think.
Look in the description.
But yeah, okay. The number 10 No, are you looking at it?
Hold up, bro.
Oh yeah,
I think what we'll do, since we're not going to talk about mine, or we're not going to talk about mine in detail, we're going to focus more on the article. I'll spit my 7 first, and then we can. So just thinking, before we came on set.
Okay. Ooh, I like
on
that.
set. Get a load of this guy. Just off the top of my head, problems with society in itself. I didn't look at it from a global perspective. I looked more of it as like something that you see firsthand. Number 1 is gentrification. Number 2 for me was materialism. 3 is divisive politics, not just politics in itself, but focusing more on divisive politics. 4 was for me was the negatives of social media, because there are a lot of positives associated with it. 5 is normalized mediocrity. 6 is the negligence of mental health, and 7 is the ignorance of the quality of food in which we eat. So those were the 7 that I could think of off the top of my head.
Negligence of mental health.
Yeah.
I think what's more impressive is number 1, the quality of the food.
That was number 7.
So I mentally maybe the mental health aspect is messing with me. But I listened to the list in reverse. Yeah. Because I thought you were counting down. My bad.
Nah. Definitely. Well, that definitely should be number 1 if we're talking about
importance.
Yeah.
But this isn't a ranked order list.
No, it's not. It was just off the top of my head. Yeah, I was saying something off the top of my head.
Okay.
I put gentrification first, because you just see, like, if you live in or if you drive through Norfolk, you'll see a lot of like nice apartments coming up right next to Section 8 housing. And all that's going to do is eventually force the Section 8, it's either going to drive the price of those new development homes, because for whatever reason crime is going to increase, or it's going to eventually see the relocation or the exclusion of those residents of those Section 8 houses.
But is that the city's fault?
What do you mean it's the city's
as
fault?
far as because they're doing gentrification?
Absolutely. The city is the one who approves the permits for people.
Okay, but people would say that's the people's fault for doing the crime and everything like that. So
that's the aftermath. The people aren't committing the crime first before the apartments come.
But you said that the crime was.
It's eventually going to come. I said so. Either the price of those apartments are going to drop because of crime, or the people are going to eventually be forced out of that housing, and something new is going to be put up.
If you create the conditions for a situation, you're responsible for it.
So it's like I see that over the fence. They got everything. Let me go over there. Yeah, I got you. Sure. Makes sense. But yeah, gentrification makes sense. What was number 2?
Materialism.
Okay.
Yeah, materialism. This one kind of goes hand in hand with number 4, the negatives of social media. Always comparing yourself with others of what you have and don't have. Mm-hmm. And then it's also materialism for me is like just the consumption of unnecessary goods. Shit that you like in the moment, but next week it's not going to have any value in your life. It's just going to collect dust after that. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I looked at materialism. So 2 and 4 go hand in hand. 3 was divisive politics. And as a political science major, I have like a deep affirmation for politics. But I will say, as a political science major, the 2016 election made me fall out of love with politics, because it was no longer about
2016.
Yeah, it was no longer about like a collective thing. It was a us versus them thing. Mm-hmm. And I think when you kind of develop that us versus them mentality, you're kind of like separating yourself from what the quote unquote American beliefs are.
Right. You alienate yourself from another group, and then once you do that and separate them, and you start seeing them as less than human, and it's so easy to demonize them and say that, well, they're this, they're that, and it's always like the extremes are represented, but most people aren't on either side of the extremes. They're more moderate and in the middle, and we're just silent. Well, we're not as vocal.
Yes, sir. And then obviously on top of that, if you think back to that time, that was a lot when like what was her name? Tommy Lauren? Yeah, she had her, the phrase snow bunnies or liberal snowflakes. I said snow bunnies. Wow. Liberal snowflakes. I'm sorry. There you go. Like that's just there's such a negative connotation behind that in itself. Like nobody wants to be called that. So you're essentially like you're igniting the flame right there, and it's just only gonna go down from there. So I say on top of that, normalized mediocrity kind of goes hand in hand with the failure topic from earlier. How I view it is like exactly how I said it, not living up to your full potential. the whole "it's okay" thing. Like, you'll have another chance, and that just becomes your norm. You know, you just kind of sit and you wait instead of going and getting what you're supposed to get. It's kind of like when you've hit this brick road, or if you hit failure at a young age, you think like the world is completely against you and you stop trying. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just like so many people have took that hurt or took that pain that is associated with failure and stopped trying and just focused on how can they maximize the good out of life by, you know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with, you know, partying, drinking, doing your thing, but there should be some form of balance. And I think the normalized mediocrity is where there is no balance. It's just you trying to get the maximum amount of good out of life by, you know, partying, drinking, and then you're working a job that literally only pays for you to do your party, drinking, and then the bare necessities. Mm-hmm. So that's what I mean by mediocrity. Because it's kind of like those things where like, oh, you're young, you're supposed to be doing that stuff. But really, you, like I said, also, if this is the route that you go, then all you're going to be doing is paying for your debts that you're doing now later in your 20s and in your 30s.
And we're not young forever.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I said negligence of mental health. Obviously, there has been an overbranding of, you know, depression and anxiety. Obviously, there's a lot of people who go through it, but there are so many people who don't entertain it at all either. And I think that's like a product of, you know, our parents and their parents kind of, you know, frowning upon the idea of depression and anxiety and not welcoming that talk into their households, when really, you know, the first step is talking. Mm-hmm. And I feel like so many people hold, you know, their mental issues as like a burden to not only themselves but to their family, and that only makes the situation worse. And so negligence in its legal term is exactly that, like not addressing something, or you're careless in your actions. And by you choosing not to address something that is eventually going to deteriorate your mental being to the point of no existence, you're neglecting your mental health. And I think that's something that should be addressed. You agree?
Absolutely.
I didn't know if it came out how I wanted to say it, but, you know, that's how I look at it. And then obviously the ignorance and quality of food in which we eat. This was obviously addressed at some point where, you know, you have the GMO and non-GMO organisms and what is it, like your meats, your vegetables, stuff like that. Because, you know, I always find like when my parents, obviously Navy, when we travel abroad, like the food tastes so much different, much more fresh, and the shelf life is nothing like how it is here. It's a very short shelf life because I think the greatest example I could give is my dad said when he was in Italy, the shelf life of bread was like 3 days. Mm-hmm. You buy bread here, the shelf life of bread is like 2 weeks.
It's preservatives in it.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, sometimes you have to think, is saving that dollar to worth, you know, your overall physical health. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, you're saving that dollar, but is it really worth it in the long run when you start having, you know, the failures in your key organism or your key organs. Your key organism. But yeah, that was my 7. I obviously could come up with an 8, 9, and 10, but you know, those were the, you know, really the 7 that stuck with me.
I think it's a great start.
So let's dive in. Yeah.
Shout
out to the millennials. See what we got.
Okay, number 10, lack of economic opportunity and employment. 12.1% said that. So, do you guys? Is this a concern for you guys?
I think it's a concern for everybody, not just lack of economic opportunity.
Well, I agree. It was a low priority one. Like it's 12.1%. When we had other ones with higher percentages, such as like 14.1 for safety and security. Like that's kind of close, but like closer towards the top of the list where you have. Let me scroll. Like religious confidence is 23.9. I can definitely say that I agree that that's more of a more pressing issue.
No, but is this a concern for you?
Me personally, no.
Either personally or
me overall, personally, no.
Overall, as far as not necessarily you have to know somebody that is lacking economic opportunity or whatever, but you could be concerned for
and be empathetic towards other people.
Yes, exactly.
I think we do need to do more to help people that are striving to get back on their feet.
So concerned?
And
yeah.
But in terms of like the importance in this list, I agree that as number 10, I feel it's appropriate.
That you should. Okay, number 10 is cool. It's not.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense. Do you feel number 10 is cool as far as?
Where do you feel it should be more? Well, I haven't seen the full list.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
So,
cool.
This is, but I just kind of like from hearing about it, I think it goes into like hand in hand of like millennials having to compete with older generations for same jobs. You know, it's kind of like those entry positions are no longer, you know, entry positions, and then
entry positions like what?
Well, think about like if you want to go work at, I guess the best example I give is like, no, I'm gonna say like ADP, like coming out of college, got your college degree.
You said old people as far as
like 40s, 50s.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to, because those are a given. Like, you know, I don't know the statistics, but I'm not going to assume that baby boomers and, you know, the generation after them are the most educated Americans. So I'm not going to say that they come with, you know, degrees. So I feel like it is obvious that they're going to be competing with entry-level jobs because all they have on their hands is experience. And at some point, experience caps. Because you're just going through the same shit, just in a different way. So I would say, like, if you're looking at like a job like ADP call center, you're a 22, 23-year-old fresh out of college competing with somebody who's 32, 33 fresh out of college. Like, it's, you know, there has to be a point to where like and I think 32 and 33 is still considered millennials, right?
No, I don't.
I think my sister's.
Let's look at the actual definition of a
32.
Well, my sister's 31. I didn't mean to put your age out there like that.
I feel like in what year?
87.
The definition of a millennial is researchers typically use the early 1980s for the starting birth years and to the mid 1990s and early 2000s as the ending birth years.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't even say 2000s was millennials.
I wouldn't.
No, I would say like 1990s.
But obviously, I mean, there's always going to be a disconnect, though. Like, we think of 2000s, but think about the people born in the 80s. They probably feel the same way about us.
True.
Like, how there's a disconnect. So I think, you know, it's fair.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure. But
that's how I just look at it. Like, even with a college degree, you're still competing with, you know, for entry-level positions, people who are, you know, 10 years older than you or possibly double your age.
How do you think? Well, how can they be fixed? Basically, how can it be fixed?
I mean, that's just what capitalism thrives off of.
Competition.
Competition. Okay. You know, there is no prerequisites or you know, age isn't an eliminating, you know, factor when it comes to jobs.
True.
As you know from working at Cloud9.
You're also the thing you say you're competing with people who are in their 30s. I'm trying to send these out. I'll just type that out for you. But you're competing with people who are fresh out of college and they have like a 10-year age difference. But you're not taking into account the people who have been at, like, let's say, like, you use ADP as an example, correct?
Yeah.
So the people who have been there for 10 years and in the same position, but you're also competing with them when you're fresh and you had that experience too.
Yeah.
Whereas if they had, you know, transitioned to a different role or accepted more responsibility within the company and left the entry level open for people who had it, exactly, that's another problem too. And that comes from people not taking individual responsibility or striving to be the best version of them.
Makes sense. But yeah, that's number 10. Basically, lack of economic opportunity and employment. Number 9 is safety, security, and well-being, and that's at 14? Yeah, 14.1%. So
I was thinking about safety, but then you think about all the mass shootings, so never mind.
So is this a concern for you? I mean?
Absolutely. For that same reason he just noted.
Mass shootings?
Yeah. Domestic terrorism.
You call it domestic terrorism?
That's exactly what it is.
Call it.
Because a lot of people don't call it domestic terrorism. They just call it mass shootings, but whatever.
Only when it's committed by
I'm just throwing it out there, but yeah. So that's the only reason why it's concerned is for mass shootings. Any other?
That's the most prominent. That's the focal point of it. As soon as I saw the safety concern, that's the first thing that came to mind.
Gotcha.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there's other factors, but you can't ignore that.
Makes sense. Do you feel it's good at number 9 as far as more touching than lack of economic opportunity and employment is more important?
Of course, absolutely. But I think this should be ranked a little bit higher, because we've seen over the years a continuous rise in the number of mass shootings.
Why is that? Why do you think there's a rise?
I don't know, but I think a lot of people are getting inspired by other shooters.
And but it's exposure from the shooter.
The martyrdom, martyrdom, right? Yeah, they get inspired by it and they say, well, they're nihilists. Those people, they just want to see the world burn, so they want to cause the maximum amount of destruction before they go out. That's their goal. They don't have any ambition other than that. But I think by them seeing it and getting the publicity, that inspires other people. So you have people like Dylan Roof. What are some of these other shooters?
I don't know the names, honestly.
Columbine, the Klebold and Harris, those two.
The guy that started sending bombs to all of the Democrats. Yeah.
Like maybe he was inspired by Timothy McVeigh. I don't know. Unabomber.
Interesting. Yeah, but it makes sense. You agree?
Yeah, I'm looking. He sent me the list. I'm looking at it right now.
What list is it?
The list that you got.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Since I had never seen it, I didn't know what you're gonna say next, but now I got you. No, I agree with that.
But yeah. So do you think that concern is going up with Trump being in office? Any chance as far as safety?
I don't think
I'll separate from him.
Yeah, I don't think there's a direct correlation between the two.
Do you think it has risen though?
With time, yes.
No, with him being in office.
He was.
I don't want to.
We're not going to time period, but I'm not going to blame him for it. No.
Yeah, I'm not saying blame him. I was just asking if there was.
This is just an obvious observation.
Makes sense. But yeah, that's number 9. Safety, security, and well-being. Number 8, lack of education. That's at 15.9%. So
I think this could have been number 1, to be honest.
Number 1. Interesting. What do you think?
I wouldn't have put it at number 1.
Hold up. So I want to make sure I'm reading it right. Is number 10?
Yes, the most severe.
The most severe?
Yeah,
I could have put this at number 1.
But the lack of education, I understand what you're saying. It should definitely be a higher ranked priority because a lot of these issues that we're looking at, like if you just look through the list, they can be mitigated by education. Like education is the answer to like almost all your problems, unless it's just some random act of misfortune. But I do agree that
there are a lot of dumb educated people. There are a lot of dumb people with degrees, I should say.
Yeah.
I don't think everyone amounting $30,000 in debt is going to solve, because a lot of people, like, when they go through college, this goes back to the failure thing, the path of least resistance. They want to do the least amount of work to get what they need. They're only there for a degree. And there's a lot of, like, I think the common thing I've seen now is, like, a 2.5 GPA. That degree is worth the same as a 3.8 GPA. When, in fact, it's not.
Absolutely not.
Because that 3.8 GPA opens up doors that you're not going to get with that 2.5 GPA. So the reason why I just feel like lack of education could have been, the least severe is because people are still getting educated, I feel like, at a higher rate. Like if you look at black women are getting educated at a higher rate, which I will almost assume that black men are being educated at a higher rate. And of course, white men and white women have always, been educated at a higher rate than the two. So I feel like education is on the rise. Like there are more people obtaining degrees, but with there being more people obtaining degrees, the competition is always going to be there. So that's why we have lack of employment, and lack of economic opportunity and unemployment. And then obviously with that, with safety and security, there's no correlation between the two, but because you still have people like you see at UVA, the dude driving the car into people.
Well, you said, what about the lack of economic opportunity?
Well, I feel like there's a correlation between the two because with more people obtaining degrees, there's now more applicants than there were at a time where people weren't as educated as they are today. So I feel like those two can kind of go together. Well, they go together in my mind because I don't see that as like a severe thing because I feel like people are being educated at a greater rate than what they were in history. So that's why I feel like this could have been, below lack of economic equality for that
But
reason.
is it enough?
In what sense?
Are we as educated as we should be? Because I don't understand, like, it's rising. Like you said, black women are becoming more educated. I think.
Is it enough? No, because I feel like the rate is
You said educated as we should be. What kind of education though? That's
I feel like we're focused. We're
just
we're on the college degree.
You're saying degree. I'm saying educated as in the sense of being knowledgeable and competent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like
what kind of? That's the
I was looking at education as book education, not
no.
You know.
I'm looking at knowledge and competence.
Yeah. But you said there's dumb educated people. How are they dumb educated people? As far as them not paying attention in school, as far as them just.
It could be that
you can have a degree and not have any common sense.
Yeah, but he was talking about dumb educated people, and I was saying how did that correlate with as far as lack of education and what kind of education?
So put it this way, my god brother has a law degree, and we came to the conclusion that, and I think you'll probably agree, both of you agree with this, that bachelor's degree kind of symbolizes that you have some degree of critical thinking. You're able to think critically, which means you can almost rationalize your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's not always the case. There are a lot of irrational people with bachelor's degree who are not able to think critically. Because there are a lot of majors that require the bare minimum on your exit exams. Like I know with poli-sci, and I don't want to throw poli-sci under the bus, but for your exit exam, you're just submitting a paper that you did earlier in your what is it, baccalaureate career.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's all it is. You're just submitting a previous 10-page paper that you had wrote as an exit exam. That's it. It doesn't require like extensive research. It doesn't require an extensive amount of work to get that degree. It's something that you did previously. Is that bad? No, because you did the work once before. Why should you have to do it again? But at the same time, like the guidelines that are in place are not rigorous. Per se, that's what I'm saying. They kind of like make it easy for you. You did the work once, all right. Well, we'll see you on the other end. So that's kind of why I feel like there can be dumb people, because who is to say that paper was written by them? A lot of people pay people to write papers.
Paper mills, yeah.
Yeah, like people. That's the thing. Like I know one of my boys. He used to charge people like $30 for like a 5-page paper, and we'll do it the night before it was due. Like people make money off that in college. So
is the education of just being knowledgeable, like Bryan said, is more important than book smart? Like
yeah. There's a lot of people without college. I'm not gonna say a lot, but there are definitely people without college degrees who learn more through life struggles and life opportunities than somebody who sat in a classroom and completed 120 credits.
Right. Neither one of my parents went to college, but I learned a tremendous amount from them.
Yeah.
I feel like they're two of the most intelligent people that I know.
And that's the education that you can't buy.
You can't teach that.
So the education is more important than basically the book education.
Yeah. Okay. Because how you maneuver in life is going to depend what opportunities open up for you.
Is that more of the education that we lack as people rather than the book education?
No, because I think that divide has always been there. Well, I'm going to say yeah, because the divide has always been there, but I'm also going to say no at the same time, because if everybody could maneuver through life with like it was nothing, then where's the competition at? Where's the ambition going to come from?
I feel
sometimes people have to hit that hard, to go through that hardship to develop that ambition. If everybody's just given the golden key or the golden ticket to get what they want out of life, then you settle. You settle because you don't know what is better than what you have, because everybody has what you have.
Or we'll just waste away.
Exactly.
You have everything you need.
Yeah. But you both definitely feel it can go further up in the list, though?
Yeah.
No, I said it can go down.
I feel
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Under that understanding, yeah. But if we're going to talk about education as being book smart or whatever, then I feel like it could go below. It could be the last on the list.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But I'm saying, like, I understand, like, we're based in a competence hierarchy. Most times, like, the person at the top of the company, they know most about the industry or something like that. But if we as a whole became more knowledgeable, more competent in our task and in our lives and how we conduct ourselves, it'd be more beneficial not only on a personal level, but beneficial to society as a whole. Yeah. It's compounding interest.
Yeah, makes sense. But yeah, that's number 8, lack of education. Number 7, food and water security, 18.2%. Said this. First thing I think about is
this is why you read it that way, because this is how it is on this. You remember when I was reading out my list, you thought number 7 was number 1?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's why you thought it was like this, because this is how it's
written. It's a countdown, yeah.
But yeah, that's number 7, food and water security. First thing I think about, Flint. But is this a concern? How big of a concern is it?
Of course. Because if you think about food and water, they're one of the primary. Excuse me. They're two of the most primary necessities of human beings. Like two of the most important. Food, water, shelter, all that. So if you inhibit someone from obtaining, the proper nutrition and things like that, the rest of this stuff doesn't matter whatsoever. You can't worry about your mental state if you can't fulfill your basic biological needs. You can't worry about your employment situation. You can't worry about what's some other things that are on the list.
You can't worry about life.
Life security.
If you don't have good water, you can't live.
Yeah, you can't worry about your unemployment. I don't have a job.
You can't drink the water in Flint. So I don't think this.
You're not worried about a job.
Yeah, you're worried about your overall life.
So it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You familiar with that?
You said who?
Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
No, I don't.
So it's a pyramid, and I wish I had.
Wait, I think I've heard of that before, actually. I got that.
Okay, give me a second. But it's a pyramid of self-actualization. So it says at the bottom, you have your biological needs, stuff you need, like food, water.
At the top is like material stuff.
Self-actualization. So at the bottom, you have your physiological needs: breathing, food, water, shelter, clothing, sleep, stuff that you can't live without.
Yeah.
Then you have your safety and security on top of that. So that's your health and employment, your property, your social stability, your family. So that's appropriate. You fill the bottom level, then you can work with the next. Then you have love and belonging, your friendships, family, intimacy, sense of connection. Then on top of that, you have another level of self-esteem, which is your confidence, your achievement, respect for others, the need to be a unique individual. Just read directly off the hierarchy right here. And then self-actualization is the morality, creativity, spontaneity, acceptance, experience, purpose, meaning, and inner potential. So it's like you're not worried about things you're not worried about your self-esteem if you can't fulfill your basic biological needs. Yeah. It's like it's exactly what it is, a hierarchy.
One goes before the other, basically.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah.
Concern.
Oh, well, you remember I said that off my list.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel this could become worse as far as in the future? Like, what if other areas start to develop waters? Like,
it shouldn't become worse because the technology is there for it to.
That's inexcusable.
Yeah. If it becomes worse, then it will be inexcusable because the technology is there for you to correct the situation.
Would that be higher on the list if that technology didn't exist? Or
would this be higher on the list if we did not have the technology?
As far as would it be?
Of course, because that'd be one of the first things we need to fix.
True.
And that also goes back to when factories used to dump toxins.
They still do.
In the water.
Everybody used to. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, it used to be it wasn't regulated at a point where you could just dump it wherever. No, so there was this in my poli-sci class when we had read this book, and essentially they were talking about or what had happened was there was this tannery and they were dumping their toxic chemicals into like the creek or the water, and obviously that's where the nearby town, because this was back then when the factories pretty much owned the town.
Mm-hmm.
So what had happened was the families who worked for the factory, they started, when they had kids, these kids were born with like severe cancer.
Right.
And obviously if if like a mother is not able to breastfeed, they're on formula. And if you aren't afforded the opportunities to have bottled water as your main source of water for your formula, you get it from the tap. And so essentially what happened was there's this lawyer that came in, investigated, and saw that, and like watched people, the factory workers, pour those toxins into the water, and then was able to correlate between the two. Like we'll go up and ask them like, hey, what would happen if somebody ingested this stuff? And essentially what he was told was that somebody ingested this stuff, they pretty much be dead. Like it was that bad. So it was a big case. I want to say it was based off a true story, but I think they ended up getting like a 9-figure settlement because the factory was negligent. Like if the factory was negligent, it was improperly disposing of the toxins. So that's why I said when they used to, because I'm pretty sure if a factory sees that there's a 9-figure payout for some shit that they doing, they're gonna be on it. Yeah, they're gonna be on it.
We'll find a loophole around it.
Yeah.
Makes sense. But yeah,
so that's why the Flint water crisis is so big. And that's why the bottled water is so important, because the tap water isn't, and for the baby, that's why there's such an outcry over it, because women who can't breastfeed, they rely on formula. The formula comes from tap.
Right. Actually, pretty recently I saw we're just now doing this. Like, so in Australia, they're implementing these nets on the drain system. So like, of course, they're regulating the chemicals they're dumping, or they're not doing. I don't know exactly how that works, but the nets are to, inhibit the physical
pollution.
Yeah, the physical pollution.
I think I saw
pollution, but like the plastics and all that.
Yeah, I think I saw a picture of that.
Yeah.
I saw a picture
and you would think that would be more, like, why haven't we done that sooner? To me, that is just like common sense.
Don't care.
We have
out of sight, out of mind.
We have drains in our sinks. We have drains in our tubs, and we didn't think to put a drain at the end of the waste type tube. It just
when I saw that, I was like, that's a good idea. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah. But yeah, that's number 7, food and water security. Number 6 is government accountability / corruption, and that's 22.7%. So, is this a concern for any of you?
That's obvious.
Yeah.
We can actually like brush that one and keep it moving. I think the biggest thing we can say about that one is it creates a negative precedence.
Yeah, if you don't hold your political figures, just for abstaining from using names and things, but if you exempt them from consequences, like you said, you're setting the precedent for that to move forward in the future. So if you're not upholding it and abiding by the law, then you're creating the illusion that people are above the law, and that becomes like a reality.
Yeah, makes sense.
Tyranny.
But yeah, government accountability / corruption, 22.7%. Then number 5, religious conflicts, 23.9%. Is this a concern?
I don't know. I actually did not see that when I read it at first. I don't know.
You don't know
What do you mean?
Like religious conflicts. Is this on a global scale, or is it like?
Because we don't really have religious like wars in the United States.
Of course he is, but
I don't
It's more so in the Middle East. Like, they've been killing each other for how many years?
Okay, yeah. All right, you're right.
Like, even back when you had the Crusades and things like that,
That was a
all
big
in the
thing.
name of religion.
That was a big thing in Africa. That's how they divided Africa per se.
Mm-hmm.
Between Christianity and Muslims, and then that was a collision. They conquered Africa through religion, you could say.
So you saying it's not a concern for you because it's
No, I'm saying I wasn't looking at it from a global scale, but you mentioned that, and it's been evident for years, centuries.
Is it a concern for you?
Absolutely.
It is.
I don't think it ranks this high for me because this isn't something I see firsthand, but I think it does rank high, like you said, if we're on the global scale still. Because you said problems for millennials, right?
Yeah. This is what millennials feel.
I guess.
I mean,
And I don't think we know the answer to it either.
No, like for it to be like so high up on the list, and for us like to not have like it's not talked about that much. It's not talked about.
religious conflicts.
Yeah,
You don't think so?
I don't think it's talked about it.
They talk about Syria in the news every day.
It depends on which news. Because I think a lot of like CNN and MSNBC is so caught up, and I love CNN and MSNBC, but it's so caught up in the Trump, so caught up in covering Trump.
Twitter. 140, 280 characters.
If it's not Twitter, then it's like the cabinet. People stepping down, people getting appointed. What
true,
beef
yeah.
does Huckabee Sanders have with, like, it's just a whole bunch of ridiculous stuff. And then Trump appointed somebody, well, the person he appointed didn't want to accept it, so they, like, it's just...
Hot potato.
But do you guys feel this is a new thing though?
No,
Or
it's
been
been
happening.
I think we established
Yeah,
this.
so
no,
it's
no,
been
no.
happening, right? Okay,
It's been happening for
What,
centuries.
the fact that they're doing that in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
political realm, like the news coverage, or are you saying
No,
like
as far as the corruption,
the religious aspect?
As far
Just
as
the religious conflict in
religious
itself.
conflict, yeah, the religious conflict in itself. Yeah,
It's big, but I think it's something that has been occurring for so long that we're kind of, like, numb to it.
It's almost inseparable from
Yeah.
from our current living. Like, not us, but just in that entire region.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think there's been a period of extended peace.
Like, oh, nothing new. Oh, how long has this been happening? Like, I think that, like, as bad as that sounds, that's become, like, the reaction to it. Because it doesn't affect us directly. And I think it's one of those things that we're not going to pay attention to it until it affects us directly.
Makes sense. Yeah, I was about to say it. I was going to give the next one. Like, what if, like, the government allows it to spill over into, so because I mean, it kind of did that. Not really it wasn't really a religious conflict during 9/11, but it kind of made the whole U.S. become alert about the Muslims and how they look and stuff like, and kind of created some type of conflict. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Xenophobia, all that.
Yeah, basically. So.
Oh, there you go.
What?
I forgot about how Trump, like, 16 or 17? wanted to put the ban on Muslims from entering.
Oh yeah, like demonize an entire religion, because you can't. Do you know how different people of a religion are from one another?
I mean, I feel like my answer is going to be there's a severe difference, but just as people, we're like the same. That's how I was going to say it.
Yeah.
Like we all have the basic. We all have our necessities and what we believe in, but we carry out everything, the same way throughout the day.
Yeah. Look at Christians. Like from one to another, they're also very different. Like even their sub belief systems. So you have Catholics and like you have the Baptists and different denominations. There's so much difference in between them. So just to categorize them up and say, oh, well, we're going to ban all Christians, for example, which would never happen, because like our legal system is based in mostly like Judeo-Christian beliefs. So, but for you just to lump all people together because of their religion, which is just one part of the intersectionality, kind of like last week touching on that. Their race is the most important part. Now their religious aspect of them is the most important part, only because it's pertinent to the current issue.
Yeah, I got you. But yeah, that's religious conflicts. Number 5, 23.9%. And then number 4 is poverty, 29.2%. Is this a concern?
I think it'll be a concern. Like, I think poverty goes hand in hand with, my gentrification issue. Because there's going to become a point to where those people don't have a place to live. And then obviously with gentrification, you have the rise in, rent. And there hasn't been an increase in, wage. So that's why you have like the roommate setup. It's not bad at all. Not knocking
That's cool.
you at all, because if I had to set up, I would. But
I don't think poverty is that high of a ranked item in my mind.
Why is that?
Because it's more so an issue in select isolated parts of the world. Like you have like third world countries and like hubs. So let's say like in the Caribbean, so like Puerto Rico is still like ravaged from the hurricane, and then you have like Haiti who's hit by earthquakes and things like that. But you wouldn't, just because there's an area of where there's select impoverished people, but for you to say an entire area, an entire geographic location is stricken by poverty, that's not widely spread. Like there's the whole continent of North America is not poor.
Well, are you looking at it as far as what if they're talking about in the global?
yeah, see, I think we should keep it on the global aspect, because you're finding the same issue I had with the religious conflict.
Yeah,
I was like,
local.
it doesn't affect me personally.
Yeah,
and then you had the more sound understanding of it.
But I understand you talking about as far as how North America is not that impoverished, but more about the parts of the world. So what
second world and third world.
Yeah, what about on a global scale?
On a global scale?
Yeah. Because I feel this is what the millennials are really going for, is like on a global scale.
I mean, it'd be wonderful if we could just give everyone more money and improve their living situation.
Give.
Is it a concern though?
Is it a concern?
It's more of a concern on the global scale?
It is a concern, but I would rank it a little lower.
Lower, okay. Makes sense. Yeah. Would you rank it?
I wouldn't have ranked it.
You wouldn't rank it at all?
Because, like I said, I was looking at how I was ranking things was based off of what I see firsthand. Or what is obviously what is going on within the country. So,
which I think that was the intention of the list.
Yeah.
Like whoever wrote this
is what they see.
Okay. Can a capitalist society ever not have poverty?
No. What? No.
You don't think so?
Because
we're not a classless society. If we were a classless society, then we would be communist.
And it's not saying there's anything wrong with having like a hierarchy, because that's why we work hard for things. It's value. It makes you strive to be at the top.
It's kind of what the whole communism thing was built off of, or not built off of, but like the whole the fall of capitalism would be the lower class rising up against the ruling class and taking control of the corporations and this, that, and the third, and then affording everybody the right to work for, the same things. Be a classless society. And
it doesn't work.
Because then you're just going to have more riots.
You look at
because then you're going to have, then you're just going to have one, because ultimately you're just going to have one ruling class that is just going to do what they want with the funds.
Yeah. But yeah, that's number 4, poverty, 29.2%. Number 3 is inequality.
What type of inequality?
No. It says income and discrimination. I mean, I agree. Inequality is an issue, but
I was about income discrimination and
there's two types of inequality. There's inequality in opportunity and outcome. So I believe in equality. Everyone should have equality for the same opportunities to be afforded the same. Right. If you have the ability and you're competent in what you're doing, you should be afforded the opportunity. But I don't think for us to have the equality of outcome, just because you did something, everybody gets a gold sticker or something like that. If you want to break it down to a very elementary level, like elementary school, like they used to have fun day. You remember that? Did you guys do that at your school?
Fun day.
How old were you?
This is elementary school.
Nah, we didn't do fun day.
Okay, so all the kids they would have these competitions and races in the class.
Oh yeah,
prizes and
we
stuff
did
like
that.
Field day.
Field day. There you go.
Okay, same thing. But then so in
like
more recent times, I've heard that some schools they'll give all the kids awards and things like that. So that eliminates the drive, the need for ambition. Like they feel like
kind of goes hand in hand with the normalized
mediocrity, and you put that on yours. Yeah, so a lot of things there's a lot of overlap. So I feel like inequality is an issue, and it's in terms of affording people the opportunity to make the most of themselves. But in terms of outcome, just because someone's situation is not where they feel like it should be, who's to say that isn't a consequence of their actions?
I think they're mostly going for the inequality as far as opportunities, as far as people not getting the same opportunities as other people and everything like that, but not as far as the letter, what she was talking about. But
they're often lumped together, and it's assumed that just because someone has a lower social standing, financial standing, that it's due to outside factors and they're being held down by something outside of themselves. But a lot of times when people are in that situation, that's on their own doing. Not saying that there aren't people who are held down by outside circumstances and being oppressed, but there's a large number of people who do it to themselves.
Gotcha.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're good. Is it getting better at all as far as the inequality?
Inequality, is it getting better?
As far as in terms of opportunities.
Yeah, I would say it's getting better just because the stigma with a lot of things are going away. So I don't believe in passing a quota. Just say we need 40% of men, because let's say teaching is predominantly a women's job. So I don't believe we should just mandate and say we need 40% men to join the teaching force and things like that. But I think the stigma with associating gender with a lot of these different career paths, that's being eliminated, because you're able to see women executives that's becoming more prominent, male nurses and things like that. A lot of the social stigma is starting to disappear a lot because of people bringing it to attention.
Yeah, I agree. That makes sense.
So I think the opportunity is becoming, the situation is improving.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Do you feel it's too high on the list as far as?
Absolutely. I would have put this. I haven't restructured the list. Maybe we could do that at the end. We all, so what do you think? But I would have definitely put this in the. If we're just sticking to the 10 on this list, if I had to rearrange these, I would have put this at a very low priority.
I think I'm fine with it being where it's at, is because of the whole feminist movement and women just wanting more representation in what they do, whether it be in the workplace or politics or whatever. They feel like they are, even though that they have a voice, they feel like even with that voice, they're excluded in a sense. They're still fighting for something. So that's why I could understand why it is such a high priority. Yeah. But I think just as men, we tend not to put, women's issues in perspective because it's something that we don't understand firsthand. So I understand why it's as high because,
feminism, millennials.
Yeah. It's kind of like the no taxation without representation. One of the things that we were founded on is that we didn't feel like we should be paying or financially obligated to a country if we didn't have representation in parliament. And it's kind of like that, I assume, what you said with the feminism and equality movement.
Yeah. It's something that we just don't pay attention to. Well, I'm not going to say we, because there are a lot of men who are down with the feminist movement in its raw standpoint. But
right.
I think, this kind of will be a topic, the topic sooner, or for a later episode.
Absolutely.
A toxic feminism. So,
because people see that word feminism and they assume that
hate.
Exactly. It's the polar opposite. Yeah. But in this core definition, like you said, it's just for equality of both sexes. And traditionally, women they got the short end of the stick. So it's bringing it up.
Yeah.
Those opportunities.
Yeah, makes sense.
Large scale conflict and wars.
Yep, that's number 2, and that's at 38.9%. Do you guys concerned?
No. What?
I'm not even gonna lie. It's crazy that this is here
no.
because I had was on my way home from eating with my sister. Has the war in Iraq and Afghanistan officially ended? Like I feel like Obama left office and then we just stopped talking about that.
That is true.
Yeah, he brought the troops on.
Did he bring? I don't think he brought all the troops.
All the
on.
troops, no.
Nah, he never. Nah.
But the majority, I think they're still doing like help rebuild the country and monitor it. I'm not sure.
But actual war is over though. I feel.
What was any treaty signed? Well, there had to have been a treaty for the Iraq war because there was 2 countries. But the war in Afghanistan was the war on terrorism, so there was no formal enemy. So there was no treaty. There couldn't have been any possible treaty for that one.
I don't know about that Iraq war.
That's a good question. But see, I lump this kind of mentally, the large scale wars, with the religious conflicts.
You meant that's how you.
Like they're almost inseparable because the religious conflicts, the ones that are large scale, turn into wars.
I think the large scale thing is there because of the current administration. I think 9 and 5, or what is this, 8 and 5 could kind of be right next to each other.
Your list, I ordered it backwards. Could you give me the names of them?
So
9
so
and
this
5
is
backwards.
Yeah. Well, so this is number 2 and number 5 could go hand in hand with each other. Because I think it goes straight in hand with like the current administration. So government accountability and transparency could kind of like, if we were to have broken that down more, would have gone hand in hand with number 9 because I feel like the threat or the fear is there because of the instability based off of how Trump perceives himself.
Mm-hmm.
Like one day stock market is doing great, another day stock market is doing terrible, and Trump wants he wants ownership for both. So you have to kind of take that same mentality to where like Trump is going to live or die based off of what good happens to America and what bad happens to America. So if he were to drag us into some large scale war, it's not based off of the American, and obviously he had to get Congress approval, but it's not driven off of an agenda he has for America. It's driven off of an agenda he has for himself.
Mm-hmm.
And so he would do something irrational, as he's done numerous times, regardless of what advice he gets from his aides, because it's his own agenda. And so I feel like people think that because he moves so independently, despite checks and balances being there and despite limitations on his power being there, that there's always the possibility for him to say the wrong thing one too many times. And then there's a retaliation. It wouldn't even be America instigating it or like America starting it. It would be all-out retaliation from a North Korea or him saying the wrong thing to Putin and that, bromance just completely slicing in half and him doing something based off of what the Democrats might have pressured him to do or just a whole bunch of like hypotheticals.
Mm-hmm.
They feel like because Trump is so unstable in the sense of like his political views, his ability to be swayed is there based off of emotion. I feel like I feel like he functions a lot off of emotion. So, what is to say that one wrong thing won't happen?
Right.
And I think like total large scale conflict wars like that. We are at that point because of innovation and the advancement of technology. So we have that fear is always going to be there as long as the instability is there. I think once the instability is gone, then that's no longer a fear, or it will be a fear, but it won't be as high on the scale as it is as number 2. So
makes sense.
Yeah.
You agree with that, basically?
Yeah, I agree with
Yeah, I agree too. But yeah, that's number 2, large scale conflict and wars. But yeah, I kind of feel like that's go with the religious conflicts because religious conflicts are definitely a more large scale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but. Yeah, the number 1, climate change. We definitely already talked about this.
Yeah, episode 1, wasn't it?
Yeah, was it episode 1?
I think it might have been one of the videos we shot that we didn't post.
No, I think this got posted.
No, episode 1 was love. I don't think we've talked.
I feel like we did.
No, we definitely talked about it.
Yeah, we did.
It was episode 1.
We talked about. I don't remember episode, but we talked about it. But yeah, definitely climate change.
Oh, it was a discussion topic. It wasn't a question.
Yeah.
This one is actually
right.
Yeah.
Falls under the question.
Do you guys agree with
It's
being
the biggest
number one?
problem. No.
No?
Absolutely not.
You say
You don't think it's number one?
No, because I understand climate change, and I'm not saying it doesn't exist. Like, I understand that we might not be directly causing it because the Earth goes through natural periods of cooling and heating, but we're not helping it whatsoever by carbon emissions. We're speeding the process up. So I will acknowledge that. I say that I stand by that. That's my belief. But it's actually proven by science as well. But I'm saying this is not a large scale concern for most people, but if they're not meeting those primary needs on the bottom of the pyramid, their food, their water, and things like that. So just think, if you look at it from an agricultural perspective, a farmer, if he needs to produce, X amount of grain or X amount of corn or something like that, and he's looking for the most efficient way, he's not concerned about what he's doing to the environment. So if the food output, the requirements that he has to meet, that's more of an importance to him than the consequence of the environment, even though it's a long-term thing. So people are more, they lose the ability to see in the long term, and they instead of finding a solution that works both now and then, we just look for the one now, and then we're kind of like always sweeping up behind ourselves. So I think this is impossible to address if you don't look at that base fundamental problem that we have, is people not having those basic needs. They're not concerned about it. If you think about it, people who don't have those things that they need, they're not worried about recycling. They're not worried about gas emissions. CO2. Excuse me. They're not worried about any of that.
So it's not the top problem because people aren't worried about it, basically.
There's another problem that needs to be dealt with before we can tackle this one.
Okay. What do you think? Think it's number one?
Yeah.
I
definitely think it's.
What do you think is number one?
Number one with the food.
Food dog.
I definitely think it's number one because I took a environmental ethics class spring of this year before I graduated, and from what I was understanding is that I don't want to say lifespan of carbon, but I want to say something about carbon is what in the atmosphere for like north of like 70, 80 years. So a lot of the effects that are occurring from the carbon, from carbon emissions, is based off of carbon that has happened dating back to World War II. And it's obvious that we have been emitting way more carbon since World War II. And we're yet to see the effects of what that amount of carbon is going to do to the environment. So I understand the food argument. I agree that it is a very high priority, but I can't say number one because it's going to reach to a point to where we're going to be in an all-out fight for food in itself because there's no land, and the land that we have might not be suitable to grow crops. Yeah, So I feel like in order for you to focus on food, you have to focus on where food comes from.
That's the root of it, basically.
And from what I was talking about with my philosophy professor, or what my philosophy professor was preaching, Norfolk is obviously, one of the biggest ports on the East Coast. And it is thought of that Norfolk will be uninhabitable by 2040. Mm-hmm. And obviously, if you look at 2040, that's like the whole, the Paris Agreement, where they want to have a lot of, emissions cut down like almost in half. Yeah. And pretty much all the countries that were on par with that are below standard or below their meeting point. So you kind of have to think like there was another boom, and obviously you have the technological boom. I'm assuming a lot of carbon is burned to produce that technology. Even with cars, production of cars, a lot of carbon is burned to produce those cars. On top of obviously more cars on the street, more carbon, more fuels being burned. So what's to say that 2080, or even if we're going to go 2050, we'll still be alive during that time? What is to say that the effects of the carbon burn in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s won't be worse than what we're witnessing right now? And then it's going to be like, damn, we're thinking that food was the biggest issue, but really we should have been tackling this all along because now we have nowhere to grow this food. Yeah. And we have to find some new ways. I guess we're completely dependent on sea life, and at that time the oceans are too contaminated to even
pollution and shit. Yeah.
To even to even eat seafood.
It's a strong argument you can make for that, but that would require a shift in the way that we think. Yeah. We would have to look at the root cause, and most people, like I said, you're not worried about the land if you can't meet your basic needs.
Yeah.
If you're not worried about where your next meal's coming from, or just like the price of food and things like that.
But I think even with the acquiring the necessities in which you can pay for that stuff, you're still not going to pay attention to it because it doesn't directly affect you yet.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of people who you could pour this knowledge into them. You could literally take Trump off the airwaves, pour climate change on the airwaves, and people are going to still find ways to discredit it. And then they're still going to be like, okay, well, it's not affecting me now, so I'm not going to minimize the amount of joy I can have in my life based off of something that's going to happen 20, 30 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always tell, like when I'm talking to the kids that I work with, their parents, I'm like, when I was their age, winters used to be cold the entire winter. There wasn't no 60, 70 degree days in November. We never had a white Christmas.
We had a few of them.
Nah, but well, you're from Northern Virginia, so it always. You're not from Northern Virginia?
Northern Peninsula. So it's north of here, but it's not like Nova. Far from it. It's like 2
hours. Are you above
Richmond?
Richmond?
Above Richmond?
Above Richmond?
Yes.
Because Richmond's an hour and a half away.
Are
you like west of Richmond?
Yeah.
Oh,
no, excuse me, East Richmond. We're on the peninsula.
Okay.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's probably not yet.
But you're really close to the water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like right on the Rappahannock River.
But yeah, interesting. But yeah, but you still agree that this too?
Like,
you still put
yeah, I'm as much as an environmentalist as anyone. I'm very conscious about that. But just the way that we currently are, I think there needs to be a tremendous shift in the way that we conduct ourselves. Down to, for example, like recycling. This place is advanced as this. Like, this is a nice apartment complex, but we don't have a recycling program. Why is that?
Costs money.
Yeah,
I would assume it costs money.
Yeah, so we're worried about cutting those corners because of the immediate, we can save a few extra dollars on not having to pay this service to come pick up the recycling. But in the long term, it's more worth it. So, but I do see your counter argument that you say that this issue is more prominent and more important than the food crisis. But I kind of see like a lot of these issues, they're consequential of one another. Yeah. And I think they're almost inseparable because, like you said, the food is derived from the land, derived from the sea.
I think the scariest thing about climate change is we're dealing with the effects of something that we didn't even cause.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like because if you carry that knowledge, you're not even going to be worried about the effects of something because you're not going to be here to witness them.
Mm-hmm.
And what's to say that what we're burning now is greater than or less than what they burned in the 70s? So I know I don't want to eat salmon for the rest of my life. I don't want to eat flounder for the rest of my life. I sure as hell don't want to eat no salmon or flounder that's been swimming in any of these waters. So
yeah, that's true. Got to get our food like The Walking Dead and start.
Bro, you should eat shrimp.
Do I eat shrimp?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen like a lot of posts lately that have been called. Well, I think it's obviously factual, but calling shrimp the cockroaches of the sea.
They've been saying it for years.
I've never seen that before, and I was like, still gonna eat my shrimp.
Got some in the freezer.
For real though, I think every black family got shrimp in the freezer, frozen shrimp in the freezer. We have some frozen shrimp, frozen salmon.
Every get together.
That's crazy.
Every night for dinner.
My dad used to go to the farm fresh and get the shrimp with Old Bay seasoning on them.
Oh yeah, I know you're talking about.
Hated that because you have a cut on your finger.
Oh
That's
man,
a wrap.
You better not cut your lip or bite your lip either.
None of that. That Old Bay season tear you up.
That's
so Josh, I don't think you provided your input on this last particular subject, the climate change, destruction of nature. Did you?
No, climate change. I agree though. I agree.
That's number one.
Yeah, I agree. It's number one. But I definitely understand where you're coming from as far as the food. That's like definitely up there as far as at least number two.
I understand. Like it's more of a lot. This is a more prevalent issue, but in terms of how we deal with it, we're not able to see that far.
I kind of look at it as not really look at it as something we can't control because I feel climate change we can't control, but it's so messed up at this point. Like
we can't control it, but we can stop contributing to it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel we do better than other generations. I feel older generations anyway. As far
other
as
nations too, in some cases.
Yeah. Well, yeah. in some cases.
Like China's air pollution.
Oh, okay, China.
Have you seen some of the pictures of the smog over
Yes, Shanghai is you can't see.
there? The air is like brown shades. Like it's like beige.
Yeah. We went to Shanghai in 2010, 2009, and it's even Beijing
like,
is back.
like permanent fog type.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, it's crazy.
Like if you are up in the, like if you get a hotel that's high up in the air, because China's always about building up. So a lot of their hotels, you can get, rooms that are like 60, 70 feet off the ground, or 60, 70 stories off the ground, and it's like, I think a lot of China too Asia for the most part is very has a lot of mountains, so it's like kind of weird looking at it during sunset because you can see everything, but it's like always that cloud of smog around everything, and obviously Shanghai is more polluted than Beijing, so it's like that smog to where when you go to New York, like on a cloudy day, you can't see above it. It's the same thing, but from the ground up.
Yeah, I got you. That's crazy. But yeah, that's the top 10.
It's dirty.
Problems facing society according to millennials. Is there anything else you guys want to add as far as anything you guys want to add to the list?
No, the list was solid.
Between Desmond's list and this is, I feel it's pretty extensive.
Do you feel communication is a problem that is facing?
Communication is a problem in every crevice. Any nook and cranny in life, you're going to find some goddamn problems with communication. Work.
What about with the increased technology, though, as far as...
We have increased technology. We have this.
Yeah, as far as that, what if like...
It's easier for you to communicate and we still find problems.
It's easier now than ever, and we still can't do it effectively. Come on now. What do we need? Chips in our heads that now we can talk to people? And we still wouldn't use it right.
Gotcha. Would y'all put that on the list?
Communication?
Yeah.
No.
Like world problems?
Yeah.
No.
I would say if you wanted to incorporate it somehow, it would tie into like the mental health aspect.
And a lot of people thoroughly enjoy not having the burden of being responsible for making decisions. A lot of people love taking orders and following through with them, and then there's like a small select few that are very good at being leaders but don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know when we were managers, we were like very independent managers, so we kind of like did our own thing, and people love that. They kind of hate the managers that are puppets. People really enjoy people who who are like very structured and can do this, that, and the third,
or
to
don't do
benefit
anything
them.
and just
and adapt to the current situation versus just operating off some memorandum that was handed down to you.
Yeah, people love doing what's already set in stone, set in place for you, or for them, I should say.
It's easier.
Yeah,
makes sense.
it's kind of like the whole organized chaos thing. People don't want to do certain things, but they still like if there is some form of structure associated with it, then they can function in it per se.
Yeah, makes sense. But yeah. Interesting list, interesting opinions as always. But what do you guys think though? Do you guys agree with the list? Do you guys have other things for the list? What's up? Would you rearrange some things? Do you think you might not think climate change is number one? You might think something else is number one. But what do you guys think though? Let us know. As you know, I'm Joshua Freeman. Got Mr. Bryan Carey, Mr. Desmond Tillman. You can catch me on Instagram at Joshua via Society. Where can I catch you?
Instagram, Bry_Almighty_.
You can find me on Apple Music.
That
Dope is Des.
That mixtape, bro.
Nah, bro. So one thing that I want to start doing is like albums of the week. What albums have got me through the week? And the album that I would encourage y'all to go check out if y'all haven't already is Freudian, Freudian, and that's by Daniel Caesar. So yeah, check it out.
Yeah. Actually, I need to check that out.
It's an R&B album, so
I never heard it.
Enjoy it.
Yeah,
I'll be listening to it tomorrow.
You say you'd be listening?
Yeah, at work.
It's a good album.
I've been told like a lot of times to listen to Daniel Caesar. I just never got around to it, and I've been thinking too, like, what is somebody else I can listen to too? Yeah, but yeah, got a music suggestion. So
you can play the whole thing, no skips. I know this generation of me, myself included, we have like ADD when it comes to music.
Too many songs.
Well, not even too many songs because so many projects are being put out so quickly. we kind of listen through things once, formulate an opinion off of it, never touch it again.
Yeah, they don't age well.
Yeah, either that or they don't age well. So I think, this is an album that's been out for a long time. It aged perfectly for me, so I'm recommending it to you.
Oh, it's been out for a long time. I thought it was new.
No, I didn't know.
Oh, okay.
Also, like I said before, link to the list that we referenced in this podcast today is in the description, so check it out.
Yeah. Remember, comment below.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think.
If he don't drop the link, you'll catch me in the comments. I'll drop the link for Freudian.
And if he doesn't drop the link in the comments for Freudian, I will drop the link in the comment for Freudian and the list.
We're just gonna rely on Bryan.
Thank you guys for tuning in, though. We see you guys next time. Peace.